And hello. So here we are on episode 5. Oh, there's lots to do. I'm trying to think of all the tasks that I've been left to do. So I'm just going to expand this out so we can see. Yes, we have a lot. There's a little bit of tidy up here to remove the. I might have spelled primitives wrong, but we remove the unwanted stuff from our drawer, which we put in when we were learning a little bit about MONOGAME. Then we're going to add a better approach at creating sprites. At the moment, we have a look in here. And let's just go back a little bit, as in smaller font. We create our font like this, our sprite, sorry, like this, which is, as I say, horrid. So what we need to enable a constructor so that we can put some basic font stuff in there, and then another function to update this. So we'll have two functions, or we could pass in a structure itself, but we'll have a think about that and then we'll do it. Let's get back to what to do. Okay, then we need to extend the managers for players and invaders. Now what I'm going to do is slightly different from the thing, but it just makes life so much easier when we're checking collision, when we introduce our bullets. So I'm going to have managers that will control the player, the mothership, and also the invaders. And I might even have a manager which will control the UI, as in the score being displayed. Okay, and this extends it out into a game manager which will control the game, as in initialize it, set up the player and everything. So this is as we progress forward. So this is our game manager. One note here is to start work on invader behavior. So this will introduce, after we do our Anim Sprites, which will create a addition to the sprites, which will enable us to inherit some basic animations so that we can get the sprites appear like they're moving. Okay, and also the bullets, we might I don't know, have a couple of frames so they look like they're progressing forward and stuff. And when we have explosions, we'll see how we go. That might go to a particle engine, but there might be some anims for explosions there. It depends on how we do it. We're going to add a sprite text to the game because I've been looking at the Space Invader transparent bitmap, which is completely blank. Okay, well, we'll come back to that. It shouldn't be blank. There it is. Thank you very much. You horrid thing. Okay, so we're gonna, if you have a, excuse me, if we have a look down here, we have some invader sprites, which will enable us to do invader style text on the game screen. We have our normal font for our menu, which we'll use because that looks a lot better. But more importantly, this will do the score at the top. These are our bullets coming down. I'm assuming this is we'll color our bullets. I don't like. Well, we'll see how it goes. And we have our base here. We might work out how we're going to actually do that. Very interesting. I would love to actually do it properly, in the fact that when we just draw the base, we'll create a bitmap for this, as in the base itself, and then we'll actually we'll destroy sections of it. I'm thinking of a way of doing that, which would be quite easy to do it, and then we'll check the collision on the bullet as it goes down, and the bullet that goes up, and if it's in there, we'll destroy the little bits here and little bits there. Okay, so it'll look quite cool, I think. Yeah, very cool. We'll work out a nice way of doing that. Yep, so they are the graphics. We have our mothership here, which will go across the screen at the top, and our player, which will go across the screen at the bottom. and he will fire, and it will either hit the base or an invader or a mothership or go beyond the screen. So there's a few things that we need to check. We need to check the collision of the invaders, the base, and also the mothership, and if it goes out of bounds, as in goes beyond the top of the screen. So that's quite cool. So let's get back to what to do, and then after that we will do the mothership control, the player management, which is spelled wrong. Manage. I'm so terrible. Player manager, and it involves the state system. Now we'll have a state system for all of them, invaders, because they need to travel left or right, and then go down and travel left or right. When they hit the bottom, that would indicate game over, as they have invaded. And we also need to check what ones are active and what ones have been killed, and do it from there. Plus, we also need to speed them up when there's less available. That's all quite good. That'll be in the game mechanics, and it'll be quite good to tweak that, and also level progression as well. So they get a little bit harder, a little bit more bullets, a little bit faster. Yeah, the bullets firing might be a little bit more aimed at the player, and or where the player might go. I mean, we've got all sorts of things we can do there. Okay, then we need to introduce player firing bullets and the bullet control, score system and display on the screen, and also store it within the game mechanism so we can have a record of it. Okay, we need to be able to shoot invaders and remove them, as I've discussed. Invaders need to be able to fire bullets. We get a player invader collision and explosion. So that will be if the player is destroyed or the invader is destroyed. So we need sort of collision detection and explosion, which is all linked into all the prior stuff. We need an end game. So 2 ways the game can end. All invaders are killed, and it's not really a game. It then goes on, progresses to the next level, or the game will end itself if the invaders hit the bottom and they've invaded. Or all your player lives are killed. So I need to add that as well. All player lives gone. That'll do. All right, so we need an introduction to bases, base destruction, and from all bullets, so player bullets as well as invader bullets. We need a game menu, so we need to be able to choose the game. Optional 2-player mode. It'd be nice if we had a 2-player mode in there, and a high score display. Okay, so that's like we can have a start game, continue game, resume game, so you can either pause and revert back to the main game and then go back to it, and then resume from where you are, which will be a bit hectic. I might pause the game so at least you're ready and you get ready with the keys and stuff. We need to add key control for the players, so we can have a left, right, and fire. Now I'm going to have ZX and return for fire. I think they're pretty okay. Well, we could extend it and have customizable keys at the end, or use a joystick. But for now, we'll have X for right, Z for left, and return for fire. Okay, and that I think is the summary of what we got left to do. There's a lot. Okay, so I'm going to do the Anim Sprite. I think that sort of seems to be quite good. We can get the invaders doing the Anim. That'll be quite quick. Already we're 9 minutes into the video and I haven't done any code, so let's get stuck in. Alright, we need a new sprite. I'm going to put in game, I'm going to put it in sprites. So click on sprites, the sprite folder in modules, and we right click on that and we go down to add and class, and then here we'll remove class 1 and we'll call it AnimSprite. Okay, so let's develop that. We'll go across to get Sprite, go up, the usual thing, copy them all, put them in an AnimSprite there, and we'll just replace these at the top so we got the right namespaces that'll be included. All right, so we have in sprites our AnimSprite. We want to make it public, so make that. What to do next? Well, I think we'll do regions. So we want a region which will be private data. Okay, now there's ways of doing this, so I'm going to incorporate, just for ease, do we have an array or do we have a list? I think for now we don't really have to worry about memory too much. Most people have got quite a few gigs of memory, and I don't think it's going to notice. So I'm going to make a list of our frames of our anim. Now our frames are our anim for now, so we'll extend upon this a bit later on, but what we really want, we want a list of all the different, when I say frames, I mean the different graphics that we're going to use. Now luckily the invaders only have two frames indicating the two states that they will acquire when they move. So to start off with, we're just going to have a private list. I'm going to put that as a rectangle because we pass all our source references for our texture of our graphics with rectangles, and we will call that anim frames. Okay, and well, what we'll do is we'll create that here. Okay, all right, and then we need, okay, so these are going to loop around, so we're going to need a timer. So I'm going to use a float for the timer. It's a float, and we're going to call that anim frame delay. I'm going to set that to 00F. Okay, and then just move these so they look okay. And then we're going to have a private bool, and this will be reloop. Okay, we will, I'm going to set this to true as it defaults to what we're going to be using. Okay, I'll notice that there's a usual thing up here. So what I'm going to do is just add in two more namespaces. So we've got system, and we want using system. I don't even remember what this one is. Collections generic. Lovely. And that should cater for the list. Right. Alright, so we have this. We will move this to another structure. Okay. I'm going to, yeah, for now we're going to put these in here, but we might have to move them elsewhere. But for now, we'll just have it here. We're going to have only one set of anims per sprite. And then we will rework this if we need to. But for now, we'll just get this working. Okay, so in our, so I'm just going to go region, and I'm going to go properties, and then region, and we are going to do public. all right, so I'm going to effectively do a reference get for the list. So if I do list and then rectangle, and that will be our frame list, and that will be get. Okay, I won't do that. I will effectively do this properly. So if we do this, and in here we'll do a get, and in there we will return Anim frames. Okay. Alright, so that is our getter for our list. We make it basically read only. We're going to need another one for our delay, and we're going to have one for reloop or stop. Okay, so let's do public float. We'll have this one as, let's just go frame delay. I know what it is. And we'll do this. We'll keep it in the same layout. We'll have another get, return, and it's going to be Anim frame delay, and we're going to have a set as well on that one. This might need to change the speed of the frames as we will progress forward. So I'm thinking more for when the the sprite is, well, when the invaders are going across the screen, there's less of them, they speed up. And indeed, we don't want the slow frame of them going across, because that'll look like they're sliding across the screen, and it wouldn't look right. All right, so our set is going to be a little bit different. So we need to do that from the value that's passed in, which is called value. Lovely, so that's that one done. I'm going to do the same for loop, but I'm going to just copy this to make this a bit easier. We're going to change that to a bool, and I'm going to call that loop. And that will be return for some reason I just put B. I'm going to just put, change this, sorry, I'm going to change it to an M and reloop. So return M reloop. This one we want to be M reloop. Alright. So that caters for them. We're going to so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to inherit. I'm going to do that. How unhelpful is that? Right, at the start of the definition for Anim class, I'm going to inherit from Sprite. Okay. I don't think, because we're inheriting from Sprite, we don't need to do the defines, which Sprite incorporates from our game object, and our game object incorporates from our game references, which is the initialize load content. We can override them in here, but at the moment we will just do just the fact we've inherited from Sprite. All right, so in here we need a couple of functions. So this is our public functionality. Public functionality. Can you type? Yeah. No. All right. So there, we'll close the region. Should just tab it. All right. So our first one is set anim, which I think is all we really need to do. So we need, okay. So I'm going to add another bool here. Private bool, and this is going to be anim active, and that equals pulse. So we want to set it and we want to start it and stop it as and when. Okay, so in here we will have another reference in here in the properties, and hopefully you will, I'm just going to call this active. Okay, so I'm going to put AnimActive because this stipulates it's part of the Anim stuff. Okay, AnimActive, and we'll return AnimActive. Oh, bugger. Yeah, lost focus. Alright, propose AnimActive. Okay, and in here we'll do that. So it's our get and set is for allowing us to make it active or not. So when you're changing or setting the frame, I would always stipulate that you've got it switched off. Okay, so in here we will do our set public so we want just a void set, and now in here we need to pass an array of frames, array of rectangles, which will be our frames. Now, how are we going to do this? Let's see. So we want our so they're going to be an array. So if I do rectangle with our array indicator, and then do frames. Okay, we're also going to need our frame delay. So we'll do a float frame delay, and then we're going to need our loop. So we're going to bool loop. Okay, so in here we're going to add all the frames into our list. So firstly, so I'm going to do a little comment, add frames to list. All right, so our rectangle, so I do frames number length. All right, so that's the length of our array. Right, so I'm going to put that one down. So what we've got to do, we're going to clear our current list. So I'm going to do anim frames clear. We know how to clear lists. So that one's so we're clearing it. So we want to continue to add more frames, and then we're going to do we're going to iterate or go through all the frames in the rectangle array and then add them to our list. Okay, so it's actually I could do a for each. Let's makes it a bit easier. I think this should work fine without actually worrying about the length, doing a normal for loop where you set it as 0 and then you do it, checking it for less than the frames length. Does that make sense? So it's for each rectangle. I'm just going to put rect frame in frames. Okay, and then in here, so I'll remove this, and we will do anim frames add. And I'm going to add the R frame, which is rectangle frame. Okay, so that's added them in there. So we've added our frames. We now want to store our frame delay and our loop. So we want anim frame delay equals frame delay, which is being passed in. And we want our in. So is that reloop? Reloop equals loop. Does this all sound make a bit of sense? Sorry about the naming, it's not very good. But at this point, we've set everything up. What I am going to do is do anim active. Set that to false. Right. So we're setting the frames, and then it's up to you. At that point, it will be false, and it will stick with the current frame that it's on, because it won't change the frame. All right. So that's our set anim. What I have realised is the fact that if we want to change our invader to do something else, we can then set the anim and then activate it. So if we need them to do, or any sprite, if we need to do something different, just reset the set anim, call this with a new set of frames, delay and loop, and then continue it. Lovely. All right, so that's a tiny little bit of code done. All right, so what we want to do now, we want to overload our update. So just thinking out loud, so it's public, override, and then we want to override our update. So go down to update, click on that, and that will call this one. So what we then want to do is keep our base update in there. So it's effectively overriding it, so we can then effectively pass on to our sprite, and that will handle it. So this anim will allow us to have multiple updates, but in this one we just want to set the frame. So we need in here some private members. So we need a time that we currently got for each frame, so we can keep a reference of it. So so we need a private float for current frame time. That makes sense. And we'll set that to 00F. Okay. What I'm going to do is on active, so here when it sets the value, I'm going to modify this so we also, because you can do quite a lot of code in these, it's quite good. So on our current frame time, we're going to set that to 0. So you need to do this on every frame change. All right. Lovely. So when we switch it on or off, we'll know that the current frame will always be 0, so it will do a proper count. You won't flick quickly between frames, if that makes sense. All right. So, all right. Let's just have a look here. What we're going to need in our update. How do we do this? Do we do it from a state machine? Let me consider. A little bit more. Okay. Okay, so first of all, focus going back in here. Just going to put effective AnimSprite. Okay, so we want if anim active is true. So it's all going to happen in here. So now we want to check our anim frame, but we also want to add stuff to it if we need it. So if add stuff, add a time to it. So if anim frame, let's go anim, but current frame time. Sorry, current frame time is less than the anim frame delay. All right, we just want to add to it. This is where we start using the game time, which is coming in. All right, so we want current frame time plus equals game time dot elapsed time, and then in here we want the total total seconds, because we'll have our frames in seconds. All right, so this will be a very small amount, but will continually add to it. And when it gets beyond the total frame time, we'll reinitialize it again. So, oh my God, total seconds is a double. So what we will do, we'll cast that back to a float. We don't need a double for total seconds. Right, because it will never be silly amount. All right, so what I've done here, well, this value here, total seconds, is a double. That is a 64-bit float. We're using a float which has 32 bits. That's all you need to know. Is this float, and a double is a very large float. But in computer terms, a float and a very large float are different. A very large float being called a double. So what we've done here is we've cast it back to a float. That's like saying when you want to add total seconds to current frame time, please cast it back to a float. C# says you have to do this. With other languages, it will probably do it automatically, or it might, what they've commonly referred to as promote behind the scenes. But in C#, which I like this, it says if you want this to work, if you want this to compile, you're going to have to tell it what to do. So you are responsible. This is what I like. So we're going to cast it, so brackets, and we're just going to type float in, and then that will cast it to a float, and then add it to current time. Brilliant. All right, and that's all we need to do. That's all we need to do, because we don't need to change any frames. Now we get to the nitty gritty. So, we need to change the frame. At the moment, we need to know what current frame we're on. All right, so we need another private member, which we will use an int32, and this will be current frame, and we'll make that 0. For ease, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have another int, just for ease for us for using. We're going to put this as total frames. Okay, and we'll set that to 0. Initialize it to 0. All right, so we've got current frame and total frames. When we set anim in here, now we can effectively calculate our total frames. So I'm going to put current frame, we'll reset it to 0. Our total frames, we want to be, for now, as we've added them, it's quite easy. We use the anim frames count. Lovely. We could have used, that's what I was referring to, frames.length. I could do this, or use frames.length. Okay, so it's one or the other of the same value. So this is our total number of frames. So in count, we will have 2 frames for our 2 frames if we were using it for our invaders. Lovely. So this is all starting to come together. This is how you. In an ideal world, I would have written this all down, worked it out in my head, even down to functions, and then code it so we won't be continually jumping back and forwards. But we're developing this together. All right, so from here we have we need to increment our frames. So our m current frame, just increment it, and an if greater than, so if our m current frames and current frame is greater than, so 0, 1, so it's greater or equal to, just caters, it traps all sorts. We could have it if it's equal to total frames, but just in case we will do total frames, then we'll check for a reloop. So I'm going to do this the long-handed way. Simple reading is a lot better than the normal way that I can code all this on one line. But at this moment, we want to check for a reloop because we've come to the end of our anims. Even though we haven't written anything, we are at the end of our anims at this point. So if m reloop equals true, we want, keep doing that. We want to stop our reset our anim, sorry. So we want to set our current frame to 0. To 0. Our so we won't worry about the time because that's going to be reinitialized a bit further down. So we'll set our current frame to 0, and I think that's probably all we need to do here. Else we need to switch off. So it's anim active equals false. Okay, so we'll come to the end, so we turn our anims off. All right, that's quite cool. So in here, I'm trying to think of a, because we've finished our frame, did the frame as it is. That's lovely. So what I'm going to do is another little check here, because at the moment we just incremented our frame. We now need to, I'm going to do it here. So I'm going to do current frame time. And we'll make that 0 equals 0 because it's a float. Leave that there. And now we want to change our sprite. So we want to make our what's it called? Okay, try to remember. So we're looking here. So in Sprite, we need to change our source rect. That's what it's called. So in AnimSprite, our source rect equals, the beauty of inheritance is that we've already got this, it's already available to us because it's a public property. So source frame equals, now we want our anim frames, and then we do brackets because it's a list and we can calculate it from our current frame. So m current frame, and that's all we need to do, and that has effectively changed our source rect for within our texture. We're only using one texture for all our sprites, it makes it nice and easy at the moment. We normally would extend this and you would have two parameters. You would have your source rect and reference number for the texture that you want to use. Okay, but for the moment we have one texture, so that's that. So if we look down, if our anim is true, we then, if our current frame time is less than our frame delay, we will add our current delay between each update. Brilliant. So that's that done. And then we don't need to do anything else. Lovely. And then we go back onto our base update. Else, we want to increment our current frame, and if it's gone over our total frames, we check for a reloop. If it's a reloop, we reset our current frame to 0. Perfect. Else, we just turn the animals off. Then we set. See, this is where there's a little bit of a bugger here. We set our current frame to 0, and what we don't want is, if it's not relooping, we don't want to set the source rect, because that will cause a problem. Okay, so if here, I'm going to do another little check here. If in active equals true, nil, not true, true, then we will do it in brackets. Lovely. We will set it. Okay. So so we set our current time to 0. We could do this nice and neat at the top here. Let's do reworking. All right, because it'll, no matter what, yes, yeah. At this point, it needs to be reset to 0. So we increment our frame, of our frames greater than the total number of frames. We check for a reloop. If we needed, we then, if it was relooping, we go back to our start frame. Else we switch the anim off. If the anim's true, we change our source rect, which is our graphic itself. So it will change on our current frame. So our current frame. This looks good. This looks like it might not crash. All right, that I think is our Anim Sprite. So what I'm going to do, we need to try it. So let's go. Let's see if we can add this to our invaders. So first of all, we need to change our Invader Sprite to inherit from Anim Sprite. Okay. So why are we getting an error there? I called it Anim. Oh my God! I've spelt it wrong. Amin. This is like so me. All right. So I'm going to rename this. Apologies for this. I'm going to rename that to being dyslexic. Anim Sprite. You probably all saw this and thought, Neil, what are you doing? Right, so I've renamed it. So I've select rename, or rename it, and I'm going to hit enter. Watch instructions. Says you're renaming the file. Do you want to perform a rename in this project on all references? And I'll go, yes. All right, and that should have that all sorted. I apologize for that. Do apologize. All right, so all references will be there. So let's go back to our sprite. No, our Invader Sprite. That's a little bit better. So that's our Anim Sprite. So that's all there. So we're inheriting from it. So let's just quickly run this. It's all working. No animals, because we haven't set it up yet. So let's close this and we'll go back to classic Space Invaders. And in here, we need to change the invader. So the anim. So we need to do Invader Sprite, set anim, because we've inherited from it. We need a reference to our invader. So I'm just going to plonk this one up here for now. This will all be tidied up properly. So we want a rectangle, an array of rectangles. And if we do this as invader frames, and then we have that as, oh my God, I hate that. Invader frames. Oh my God, isn't it again? Invader frames pit. I'm hitting. Oh, I'm hitting. Invader. This is the thing. Is if you don't Invader frame, sometimes it. Right. Thank you. For the love of God. Thank you. All right. So equals. So I've got to try and remember a way of doing this. So I'm going to do new rectangle. And in here, we're just going to copy these. So I'm just going to go la 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 there. Copy these. So I've copied the source rect from the invader. All right. Now I know that the next frame is a little bit down the screen. All the things we want this frame here. So I have 1 1 is the start. So if we go here, it's at 1 1. Now, as I'm in the picture, if you look at the bottom of the screen here, you'll see coordinates. That is the coordinate within the texture. So this is at 1 1, and we want like something along the lines of 1. I would say 11. I'm going to go 111. All right. We'll all start to make sense. Oh God, let's go back to the right place. So we then want another new rect. If this doesn't work, I'm hoping. So all right. So I already have this as 11 because I've been trying it. So it's 1 1 and 111. So it's our first frame, which is used in our just the sprite, and our second frame because I've changed the frame. Sorry, when I was just sorting this out. So that is our new invader frames. All right. So we're going to pass this in invader frames, and we're going to have a delay. Now I'm going to have a delay of 1 second, and we're going to have a reloop of true. Lovely. And that's that. Well, actually, we're going to make this 2 seconds, just so we can see.
2 seconds, starting now.
Alexa, stop. Oh my, this is... sometimes I talk to it and just absolutely nothing. Other times, I don't get it. It just starts. Very funny. All right. Ooh, so we've done it. So our Invader Sprite, we're calling our function setAnim. And I think what we need to do is here, we just need to make sure that our anim is active. So Anim Sprites. We should have a load of ones. So I'm going to go active, anim active equals true. All right. Let's make a bit of space there. So I'm going to go anim data. Oh, it's that anim invader. All right. Let's try this. And nothing works. Boo hoo hoo. All right. Debug time. So we're going to run this again. Now in AnimSprite, so we're going to do setAnim, and so I'm going to just go put a breakpoint in there, and we're cool. So we press F5, it will run, and then stop. So in our setAnim, our frames, we have 2. We have a look at them. There are our frames. Looks good. Okay, we have a delay of 2. It's 2.0 actually. And we have a loop of true. So our anim frames is 0, but we're going to clear it. So for each rectangle in there, we're going to add 1. So if I go in there, so it's our first one. So we have a look in here. And our anim sprite's got 1 in there. Goes through again, adds the second one. Lovely. Then sets our current frame to 0, our total frames to 2. It sets the anim frame delay to 2. Lovely. Our reloop to true, and our anim active is set to false. All right, so that looks good. So let's have a look in update. There, okay. All right, doesn't call the update. Alright, okay. Bear with me and I will have a look at the reasons why. Apologies. I realised the error my way, but I just had to double check things to make sure it's okay. Yes, our update on our AnimSprite wasn't getting called. The reason for this is I needed to do in our Invader Sprite, in our update, at the bottom, I needed to call base update. This is part of inheritance. So what it would do is we have our base, our game interface, which is an abstract update, which then goes to a sprite, which has got an update, a virtual update, which is just a blank function. It then, in this case, goes to our AnimSprite, which is our update for our frames. And then we have our Invader Sprite update. All gets very confusing, but if you think up the chain, this one then moves the Invader. But and then it just stopped. So we need to call the base class, which is our Anim Sprite, which then that will then calls our sprite. So it all keeps it nice sync. So apologies for that. I needed to incorporate this. So it's one more line added in update on Invader Sprite. I've just done base update. So base dot. I'm going to type it in as well. So it's base dot. Then you'll see as you drop down, go to update, open the brackets and type game time, and then close it with a semicolon, and that will sort this issue out. Then I looked, thought maybe it wasn't working, but it's very slow. So if I do this and then run this, it does do the frame change, but really slowly. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it is roughly 2 seconds. All right, so we're just going to change that now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that flip because it's annoying. All right, but at least it looks like we've got a reference to our sprites in the right way, so they're not moving up and down between each frame. Lovely. Okay, so we're going here. We'll remove the sprite effect. Oh, that's within the drawer, isn't it? So, all right, so we go to our Invader Sprite here, and we need to revert. Actually, we can take this out, actually, can't we? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to put base drawer, because we need to put that in. If I took this out, right, so let's take this out and we'll show you. So I've took out the drawer. Oh, no sprite. Hey, where's it gone, Neil? It's because it's what I referred to now. It's the inheritance. It's on our Invader, and it needs to go to Anim, then down to Sprite, and in Sprite it will draw it. So I need to go base. Oh God, base. The mouse is over it, and then we go to draw. Open it up, pass in the game time, and then end it with a semicolon. So if we do this, press F5, it works, and we have our sprite the right way, but it just needs to go a bit faster. All right, so we will just change in classic Space Invaders our 2 seconds. Then what I'm going to change that to, I'm going to change that to 0.25. I'm going to put 0, so it's quarter of a second. We'll try this. That's better. We can see it moving across. All right, so I'm doing the noise. Very good. So that's our Anim done. And a funny feeling we're about 40-50 minutes into the video. I might, I think what we need to do is just tidy this up. I'm going to do this in the next video. Otherwise, it's going to be becoming too much of a bit of a nightmare. Apologies for this. It took a little bit longer because I wanted to explain certain things. But what we have our Anim Sprite done, and we're the next video we will just go and tidy up the sprites so they're initialized a little bit different. So we'll create functions like setAnim, very simple, but not call it setAnim, we'll like set sprite, or we'll pass it in a data structure. But I think for now we'll have an initialization where we pass in our source rect, the position, and the other stuff will default, and then we maybe need to pass in. So I'm just looking down here, we'll pass in our position, the source rect, color, and the rest can all be done separately. Lovely. So this is what we will do. It's all make things look a little bit neater. All right then, so we'll do our next video. I hope I haven't confused you, and I apologize for some of the mistakes, but I think at the end of the day we will get there. So this is episode 6 done. A nice short one, certainly not an hour and a half like the last one. Apologies for that one. So what I'll do is I'll tidy this up. I'll put this on GitHub so you can get the source. But if not, if you've worked with me and followed it, and pause and edit where I have, hopefully we'll be a little bit more, let's say, consistent in our development, instead of wondering what the hell is going on and you're watching me go through a debugger. I might do an episode on debugging, but for now we'll just concentrate on getting the game there. What we could do, we could incorporate a bug later on, and I'll show you how to find it and stuff. It's very easy. It's the wonders of modern debuggers. They can allow you to do so much, trace so much, and you see exactly what you want to see, which is perfect when tracing issues. But part of debugging is knowing where to debug, where you think the problem is, going to that area and making sure that that is the area that is the problem. As an engineer, I sort of take that for granted now. It's thinking on a system level instead of line by line level. So if there's a problem going, as like with me, the Anim wasn't animating, I know instantly where to go. The update function in Anim, and if that wasn't being called, I then know that the Invader Sprite, which newly inherited from Anim Sprite, is just not calling it. It's just stopping there. So this is where I quickly trace it down. But ideally, I proved the point by running through the debugger, setting it at the update for the Anim Sprite, and it didn't go there. So it just continued to run without breakpointing. So that makes it nice and easy. All right. Okay, so we'll leave it there. I do need to tidy up a few things, but for now, we will call that quits, and I will finally end this video. And I'll see you in episode 7, where we'll tidy up the sprites, and I want to clear our main game screen and get a whole series of invaders up on the screen, and hopefully get them moving left and right. If we have a pure coding session between us, we should manage that, and that will be you start to feel like you're getting a game together. Brilliant, and I thank you, and have a good day.